Hello, I'm Greenwood, the Executive Director of the Mountain Research Initiative. For those of you who don't know, the MRI is part of the IGBP-IHDP network of international science projects concerned with global change. The MRI is funded by the Swiss National Science Foundation and is chaired by Rolf Weingartner at the Institute of Geography of the University of Bern in Switzerland. The MRI is pleased to be a supporter of this conference, Climate Change in High Mountain Regions, because the objectives of the conference match exactly those of MRI itself. In our proposal to the Swiss National Science Foundation, MRI proposed a number of what we called synthesis workshops. That is, workshops meant not just to portray results, but also to assess the state of existing knowledge and outline important next steps in the scientific agenda. When Wolfgang Schöner approached me with his idea for a conference on the 125th anniversary of the Sonnblick Observatory, with the announced objectives of describing the status of research and formulating important issues for the near future, it was an offer I could not refuse. I regret that I am not in Salzburg, as the list of presentations is extensive and interesting. I am, of course, not the only person who, while interested in these talks, will not be able to come to Salzburg to see them. For this reason, I have asked Dr. Chris Ritter, MRI's Communication and Events Manager, to come to Salzburg to record these talks so that MRI can subsequently make them available through its website to the larger research community interested in global change in mountain regions. Some of you may not want your talk recorded. If that is the case, please notify Chris and he will make sure that your talk will not be seen by anyone outside this room. By training, I am an ecologist, but that does not prevent me from suggesting a few overarching questions, answers to which should emerge from this conference. First, do we understand mountain climates well enough that we can forecast how they will change with global warming? Of course, we can ask even more basic questions, such as do we actually know the nature of mountain climates around the world? I recall a comment by René Garreau of Chile in 2006 when he said that we really don't know how much it rains in the Andes because there are no gauges there. The best we can do is to back calculate from runoff. I think most of us would agree that observations in mountain regions around the world fall well short of what is needed to characterize mountain climates. And there are many kinds of mountain climates. Recently, I read a draft paper sent to me by Mark Williams that presented a simple ordination of mountain climates. Mountain climates were well dispersed around the two principal components, but the two most studied mountain ranges in the world, the Alps and the Rockies, both fell very near the center of the plot. Thus, not only do we not have a great observational base for all mountain ranges, but also the ones for which we do are not representative of the diversity around the world. Presuming, nonetheless, that for at least some mountain ranges we know what the climate is, do we understand its drivers well enough to predict what will happen with global warming? Does the presence of considerable topographic relief matter to circulation? And if so, do we know how climate forcing will interact with topographic relief to create future climates? And will these future climates be versions of existing climates, or will they be novel? All these questions are critical for predicting the impacts of climate change in what is already a very dynamic and climate-driven environment. As I doubt that we have all the answers or even all the observations we need, we must ask ourselves if we have a sufficient research network focused on mountain climates. While it is true that mountains are underrepresented in the global climate network, are more stations the only answer we have? Have we as a community fully exploited what we already own? Have we done everything we can to bring together the data and the thinking about mountain climates? I am sure that you will hear at some point in the next few days a talk on Histaub, and I think it is worth considering how we can expand such an effort globally. Such a project would certainly be something that MRI would support and might even be able to incorporate programmatically into its next proposal to the Swiss National Science Foundation, provided, of course, that there is sufficient will on the part of the mountain climatology community to pursue such a medium or long-term effort. I regret that I cannot discuss these issues with you, but I am certain that this conference will generate answers to these and many other questions. I wish you a most successful conference on climate change in high mountain regions.